Hello students, I'm Dr. Arti, Assistant Professor from Department of Botany, Modern College. I am here to discuss with you Indian knowledge system regarding ancient Indian farming practices. So we will discuss the ancient Indian farming practices through the slides. Our aim is to provide comprehensive understanding about the ancient Indian farming practices and their connection with culture, religion, and economy. So to do that, we are going to understand how important was agriculture in ancient India, and we are going to explore the diversity of crops grown, the traditional techniques used, and how the approach of agriculture was sustainable. Now, at the end of this lecture, you will get an insight about the agriculture as an important occupation, was important occupation in ancient India. And you will also come to know the evolution which took place in the farming techniques, and you will able to analyze the sustainable approach used by ancient farmers and how economy was associated with the ancient farming. Now let us first understand how agriculture was important in ancient India. So although agriculture was originated 9,000 before Common Era, we see lots of changes took place in the agricultural practices from the history period to Vedic, post-Vedic period, and in further periods. And agriculture was backbone and was considered as noble occupation in all those periods. This agricultural activity led to ancient civilization, including Indus Valley civilization. Our economy got strengthened due to agricultural practices, and the farmers could produce a large amount of surplus food, so they could trade that agricultural produce, and which further helped in the growth of towns and cities. All these facts can be confirmed through evidences which are available through different scriptures and archaeological surveys. So we can visit some sites present in India, such as Kalibanga in Rajasthan, Lothal in Gujarat, Lahordev in Uttar Pradesh, and Inamgaon in Maharashtra. Further, we see that agriculture and religion were very close to each other, and different religious activities were centered around the agricultural activities such as plowing, sowing, then reaping and threshing, so which is related to modern context also. So in today's Indian lifestyle, we see that we do celebrate certain festivals like Makar Sankranti, Bihu during harvesting time. We find certain hymns also in Rig Veda and Atharva Veda for invoking God of rain for good harvest and cattle health. Now, farmers in ancient India could or were growing different types of crops, which include grains, fruits, vegetables, spices, cotton, and jute. When we see the farming techniques used by the farmers, we see that they had a very systematic approach. So they would prepare a land by plowing the field. So they know the importance of aeration. They knew different types of sowing techniques. Different crops were sown by different ways. They would treat the seeds so that there was a good harvest. Then they knew the importance of pest management, and they had a technique of harvesting, threshing, etc. And this would result in the large amount of agricultural produce, and they had a method of storage of these produce. Now, to carry out the farming activities, water was required, and these ancient people knew the management of water and the irrigation technique. So they have developed different types of reservoirs, wells, canals, and dams. So we do get mention of certain water lifting devices created by these people, such as Asma Chakra or drone and Ghata Yantra. Now they have developed and protected different water bodies also. So we have a classic example of Sudarshana Lake in Saurashtra, which was constructed under Chandragupta Maurya by Pushyagupta, and later on it was repaired by the Ashoka. So this was just an overview of what these people were doing in the agricultural sector. Let us elaborate on certain facts in further slides. So first we will try to understand how was the agriculture in ancient civilization. So from the scriptures which are available and the archaeological site, it is very clear that there was extensive farming activity carried out, and which led to the civilization growth of cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. And we do see that these cities had a very sophisticated agricultural practices. So they had developed systematic irrigation systems. They have constructed large granaries for storage of seeds. Then the same kind of importance of agriculture we see in Vedic period, post Vedic period, and these people would grow a range of crops such as cereals, vegetables, and fruits. Then these people knew importance of plowing of land to make it arable. They would use manure to keep the soil fertile. They had an importance of irrigation facilities. They could manage the water bodies. So we see that different types of reservoirs were constructed, different types of dams were constructed, and we have a very good example of Kalanai Dam, which is first in India and fourth in the world, one of the oldest built on the Kaveri River, and it is still being used. Now, that is not the end of everything. We see that these people uh, had a connection with different countries in the subcontinent. So they would trade the spices and other products. Then very interestingly, they had actually invented the method of sugar crystallization, and in some scriptures we find the mention of actually adopting that technology by Chinese people. So where do we find all this information? So we have different types of scriptures. Some of them you can see on the slide. So the oldest one is Rig Veda, and other texts mention about the agricultural practices. So we can say that these ancient texts are manuals for farming. Among these ancient texts, Vriksha Ayurveda and Krishi Parashara are dedicated for agriculture and horticulture. And when we talk about Kautilya's Arthashastra, we see that they have given different rules and regulations regarding the agricultural activities. And we find the fact that the emperor at that time or landlords at that time, they would encourage the agricultural related activity, and it was a sin or punishable offense if the land was kept uncultivated, the fertile land. So that was the importance of agriculture. And all these texts, I told you that they are nothing but the manual of agriculture. So we get different methods of plowing, and even details of preparation of plows are also mentioned in all these texts. Then different techniques of seed sowing we get in these texts, the importance of seed treatment, types of seed treatments, how to store the seeds, how to do the formulations for manure and the pest management. All these details we get in all these texts. Now we see the change in the farming techniques, that is evolution. So in the beginning, the farmers would use very basic stools made from the stone, and there was a manual labor involved in preparation of the land. We see the change which took place with the invention of wooden plow, followed by the iron plow, and plows would be drawn by animals such as bulls or buffaloes or the horses. We see uh, the evolution in the irrigation techniques. Then there were construction of dams and different types of reservoirs. Now these people went ahead and developed a technique of protection of crops by preparation of different types of formulations. Then they developed a mechanism of storage of agricultural produce, because they could uh, produce large amount of agricultural product. And later on we see that as there was a surplus produce, they could trade these produce, and that led to the development of civilizations in India. Now all these activities that has strengthened the economy. So we can say that farming was the backbone of economy, and economy was improved or strengthened because of all those reasons which I have mentioned in the previous slide. So we see that there was a large scale farming. Then we find innovation in the farming techniques. They could manage the pest and the pests. They could provide manure to the soil, and as a result of that, they could produce agricultural produce in a large amount. So it was a surplus. So they could store that agricultural produce in different granaries. They could trade them, and a lot of income was generated by trading spices and the cotton. So economy became strong, and that has resulted in the development of different cities and the towns. So those cities and towns were very prosperous. Now farming actually uh, not just strengthened the economy, but we see that there was a formation of society, development of society, which would live together. So if we look at the process of development of society, then early farmers were living in very small community. Then as agricultural sector expanded, then that had turned into large settlement. And we see that due to which there was a civilization, and Indus Valley civilization is an example where different types of races would live together. That has resulted in the development of urban centers. People would meet in the urban center to discuss different activities in the agricultural sector. We see that there was a hierarchy based on the occupation. So we see the mention of this, what we say, Sitadhyaksha, that is officer in charge in Kautilya Arthashastra, who would look after the farms, and he had enough knowledge about the farming activities. So he would lead the farming activities, and such was the system. There were landlords, laborers, then people would work in collaboration. So that had resulted in the uh, large scale farming activities, good product, and good economy. Now, the coming to the types of crops grown in the earlier slide, I told you that variety of crops were grown by the farmers in ancient India. So they would grow grains, which was the staple food. So we find the mention of rice, wheat, barley, and millets in different scriptures. So rice is mentioned in Atharva Veda, but we don't find its uh, mention in Rig Veda. But wheat was cultivated uh, in different parts of India. Millets, especially ragi, is was cultivated in southern part of India. We get evidences in form of charred uh, paddy from the Chalcolithic site from Hastinapur. We do get uh, rice husk, ragi millet from different archaeological sites. Now, along with grains, we see that different types of fruits were grown, such as mangoes, bananas, pomegranates, and coconut was grown in the coastal area. As far as vegetables are concerned, we find the mention of different types of vegetable in Amarkosha and Kashyap Krishi Paddhati. So we find different types of gourds such as cucumber, pumpkin, and even onions would be grown by these farmers. Then we see the mention of turmeric, suran, brinjal, coriander, and leafy vegetables in Kashyap Krishi Paddhati. So they knew the nutritional importance, and they have grown. They could grow variety of fruits and vegetables along with grain to make a diet balanced. The spices was very important crop uh, which had strengthened the economy because spices were traded. So we see that large amount of pepper, cardamom, these spices were grown in the southern part of India. And we do see the other spices such as turmeric, ginger, cloves, mustard, and these spices would be used for culinary purposes in the traditional medicine and for religious rituals. Now, the farmers in ancient India knew the importance of growing different types of crops as a nutritional security and also as a resilience against pest and diseases. So they would grow variety of crops. And this diversity of crops had also helped in maintaining the soil fertility and also reduce the risk of crop failure. Another important fact was that crop rotation was followed in ancient India, and we do get mention of this practice in different texts. So we see that crop rotation is mentioned in Taittiriya Samhita. We see that uh, in Arthashastra. So crop rotation was a common practice in ancient India. We see lots of examples or actually uh, procedures given in these texts that which crops to be cultivated at what time. So there is one example where it is clearly mentioned that three crops should be sown in different season to maintain the soil fertility. So one type of crop in the beginning it should be sown in rainy season, and then harvest should be collected in January and February. The second crop should be sown in autumn and harvesting should be done in March and April, and third should be sown in spring to collect that in May and June. So according to Roxburgh, uh, the Western world is to be indebted to India for this system of sowing, that is crop rotation, because this practice was initiated in India. So we should be proud of Indian knowledge system that we had so much knowledge about all these things in the farming. Now, about the farming techniques used by farmers, already we have taken a glimpse of it. So, first step was to prepare a land. So, they would prepare a land by plowing so that would aerate the land. And in Krishi Parashara, we see that different types of lands are mentioned for different types of crops. Now, in Arthashastra, plowing is recommended, and 3 times plowing in heavy rain is recommended. So the plowing would be done by iron plows drawn by different animals. After land was prepared, then sowing would be done, and different types of sowing techniques were used by these people, and we see the procedures of sowing in different types of texts. For example, in Panini and Patanjali Mahabhashya, we see classification of crops based on sowing. In Krishi Parashara, we see different types of seed treatments before sowing. Now, in Arthashastra, we see season-wise sowing of different crops. For example, it is suggested that rice and sesame uh, should be sown in early season, that is just before the rains. Then different types of pulses such as green gram or black gram, that is mudga and masa, to be sown in the middle sowing, and at the end the crops like safflower, wheat, coarse gram linseed should be sown. So guidelines regarding sowing of different types of creeper, sugarcane, grapes, that is vegetatively propagated plants, we do get in different types of texts. Then to obtain high yield, the weeding is suggested in Krishi Parashara. Then pest management is recommended and given importance in Vrikshayurveda. In Vrikshayurveda, we see that the Kapha, Pitta and Vata concept from Ayurveda are extended to plant also. And it is mentioned that the disorder in the plants, or disorder in Kapha, Pitta and Vata uh, cause the internal diseases, while the external diseases are caused by climatic factors. Now, different formulations are provided for the pest management. For example, to destroy insects on the trees, we see that fumigation is suggested, and fumes of white mustard, black pepper, and some other plants should be uh, used to destroy the insects. Now, manures were used by these farmers to keep the soil fertile. So they would use animal dung, then plant remains or green manure, and animal remains as a source of manure. Now we see different types of formulations suggested in different types of text. So one example is in Agni Purana, where we find that for flowering and fruiting, one formulation is suggested, which is prepared from sesame, barley, then byproduct of goat meat is added, and all these things are soaked in beef wash. So such many examples we see in all these texts. So after all these activities, once the crop is ready, the crops are harvested by using sickles, and these crops were processed by threshing, and then the agricultural produce would be ready, and that would be stored in either in earthen pots or the granaries. So we find uh, that they had developed technique of storing the seeds for next sowing by applying some cow dung ash, so that the seeds would be protected from the insects. Then as a source of food, these seeds would be stored in granaries. And in Gujarat archaeological site Lothal, we find a very big granary for storing these grains. So that is what was the farming practices followed in ancient India. That was just part 1. In part 2, you will learn more about the water management practices, festivals, etc. Now, these are some of the references and web links which you can follow. The book which is suggested here, you can obtain from internet archive, and web links you can visit to read more about ancient Indian practices. So thank you very much for your patience listening.